Welcome back to Best Pod Available. We're almost done with summer scouting. We've got a couple more position groups after today, but we've got to get to our wide receivers, which is always a fun position group. If you're maybe a college fantasy football player, this is going to be an important episode for you because there could be some hidden value for some of these names that we're going to get to. Before we get to these rankings, please make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future content. And comment below your favorite. Who is your favorite wide receiver in the 2027 NFL Draft? All right, Ryan, let's get into these rankings. Just a quick thought, though, on the class. We're going to get into Jeremiah Smith, but were you surprised by the amount of depth that was in this class? Because I kind of was. I feel like you texted me you wanted to get to 15 guys. Yeah. I told you that's not going to be realistically possible because there's so many players that could have been watched. But I almost feel like I didn't watch enough receivers because there's just so many quality names in this class.
I mean, it's a really good class. You know what's fun, Joe? This class compared to some other classes, I feel like in years past, we've always talked a lot about, like, there's a lot of, like, slot-type receivers, a lot of jitterbugs, a lot of after-catch guys. This is like the year of the boundary receiver. Like, there's so much length in this class. There's so many bigger bodies. I think that's really unusual, and I do think that there's something to be said about how the NFL is operating now, where I think that because I feel like in the NFL right now, you hear a lot of NFL analysts calling X receivers sacrificial X's, right? Like they're basically just thrown out there just to be thrown out there. I think that that's going to start to be prioritized a whole lot more, and I think this 2027 wide receiver class is truly going to be able to add some impact size to the NFL. So I'm really intrigued by this class because there's a lot of bigger bodies in this group, especially more than what we've seen the last couple years anyway, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's loaded up. We could probably spend a whole separate show just ranking X receivers because there's so many different options. It's few and far between the shifty, smaller slot guys, the Z receivers that we've got on these lists. Let's start with Jeremiah Smith and get the required conversation out of the way. Jeremiah Smith is comically talented. A comparison that I saw, I forget where it was, it hit for me where it was, he's like a combination of Julio and Andre Johnson. It's like if we combine the two guys into one, where enormous frame, elite physicality for his size, elite mobility for his size, the ability to get in and out of breaks is absurd. He's going to run in the 4.3s. He's running past dudes, through dudes, catching the ball over dudes. One of the few prospects that you're ever going to watch that doesn't have a true negative that you need to be worried about. Jeremiah Smith, probably going to go down as one of my highest graded players ever. One of the easiest evaluations. His immediate impact in the NFL is going to be, it's going to be sudden. And I also have to finish this off by saying, I don't think that there is a similarity between him and Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think anybody should try to compare the two and saying, well, we said this about Marvin Harrison Jr. and he's stunk in the NFL. There's a real big difference in their traits and how I think impactful Jeremiah Smith could be early on.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're very different types of players as well, like stylistically. I have really liked the Andre Johnson comp for Jeremiah Smith because Smith is a verified 6'3" and like a quarter, or 6'3" and an eighth, and 225 pounds. So he is a ridiculously big wide receiver, and he obviously has that vertical element. Like, he can take the top off the defense. He's going to threaten guys vertically just with that pure explosiveness and long speed that he has, and that's going to lead to a lot of comebacks, a lot of stops, a lot of just easy completions on the NFL level. So I think that Andre Johnson is really apt comparison. Like, I think it makes a lot of sense. We'll keep it as easy as this, Joe. We don't often get guys that come into the college football, and when they're freshmen, we have the unique conversation of, can that guy go to the NFL right now if he wanted to? Well, Jeremiah Smith was one of those guys that probably could have gone to the NFL right as a true freshman at Ohio State. So, yes, let's not overthink him. He's big, physical, fast, has been productive since day one in college, and he will be productive in the NFL. And he's the best. He's the best wide receiver prospect since at least Julio Jones. But I think there's a real conversation if he's the best wide receiver to come out since Calvin Johnson. I think that is firmly on the table for him.
Yeah. The hyperbole for Jeremiah Smith is the most warranted hyperbole that has ever existed. So please don't try to do the, we got to stop using the word generational. He's the one guy that it's allowed for. We have an interesting crop of receivers, of these big-bodied guys that fit in different orderings, but in the same range for us. Let's start with Cam Coleman, who I've got at 4. You've got him at 2. I really liked Cam Coleman. I'm curious what his long speed's going to be like. I kind of felt like I saw a little more like 4.5 speed, but maybe I'm off base there. Regardless of how fast he is with his long speed, it doesn't really matter because he's long himself. He's got great length. His concentration is phenomenal. He very rarely drops the ball. He is a dominator in contested catch situations, and he is also somebody who is going to make acrobatic, ridiculous catches because his hands are so good. He had to do that to succeed with Jackson freaking Arnold throwing him the football and the other long list of mediocre Auburn quarterbacks over the past couple of years. I really am curious and excited to see what that production looks like now that he will be the featured receiver. He's got a really good second receiver who fits his role perfectly in Ryan Wingo, and a quality quarterback who should possibly be the first overall pick in Arch Manning throwing him the football.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit to this, Joe. Me having him at number 2 is a little bit grading to the flashes, which I think is okay to do in summer scouting because, I mean, if you just put the best of Cam Coleman on a film each and every week, you will convince yourself that he is a top 10 pick without question. But there are some things to be tentative with him in terms of consistency. Sometimes I think his play strength needed to get better, but I'm also grading to the flashes because of some conversations that I've had with people that have been through Texas this offseason in the scouting worlds, where one, Cam Coleman's up over 210 pounds now, right? So he's filling out that frame, which I think was necessary. And I think that seeing that he's been a little bit stronger, a little bit more physical through contact, that gives me great confidence that it's going to translate a lot more specifically in those contested catch situations, which occasionally he'll do some of those spectacular stuff. So I'm buying it. The comp, I think, easy for him, and I've seen it out there in the universe, so this isn't an original comp for me, but I think the A.J. Green comp is very interesting with Cam Coleman because he just has that ridiculous catch radius, and he can elevate for just seemingly anything. So I do think that is an interesting one. And I think, and if I remember correctly, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe, Joe, to your long speed question of Cam Coleman, I'm pretty sure A.J. Green ran like 4.47 or something like that. So he wasn't necessarily blazing fast, but when you consider the style of receiver he is, I think as long as Cam Coleman runs high 4.4s, I'm not worried about the separation factor stuff. So,
and even if he's a 4.5 guy, I don't think that that's a serious issue because it's not how he wins. He's not. When we get into these situations with these big-bodied contested catch guys with great hands that win along the boundary, it only enters into the concerning territory when they either don't test, they choose not to run. And there's the fear that they run in the 4.6s. When you get into the 4.6s, that is when we're in the concerning territory because you need a lot of things to go right to create separation and to get open. I don't think that that's the case for Cam Coleman. I had Charlie Becker higher than Cam Coleman, very slightly, similar-ish grades, because I think that Charlie Becker has better long speed. Their profiles are very, very comparable. The physicality and the play strength that he possesses, the reliability in his hands, and also the clutch playmaking with the catches that he's able to make in critical moments makes him a really compelling player. And I also think that with Charlie Becker, there is a chance that this could have been just like lightning in a bottle and maybe in a more prominent role he doesn't have the same success. I don't think that's going to be the case. We don't know for certain what his true ceiling is because he didn't start contributing until down the stretch last year. Because Cooper and Surratt were the primary targets, he wasn't really a featured prominent player. But once they realized after an injury happened that hey, we need to rely on Charlie Becker, it became clear, when there's a big moment in a game and we need a first down, we need to target him and we need to get him the football because we know that he is going to make that play. I'm kind of curious if he has gaudy production now that he's got Nick Marsh and he's also winning on the outside as a primary face in the system.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good note about his usage once Surratt got banged up and down the stretch. I don't don't think this is hyperbole at all, because I wasn't a big Omar Cooper Jr. fan, at least compared to like the consensus anyway. But Charlie Becker was the best receiver on that team down the stretch of the season. I don't think it was actually even that close. I mean, like Charlie B from Tennessee was fantastic down the stretch there. Yeah. And I think it's going to be funny because people are going to see 6'3" white guy and they're going to have their assumptions that they're going to make, Joe. But I mean, over under 4.4 flats for Charlie Becker as a 40 time. I mean,
he's a 4.3 kid. He's a 4.3 kid if I've ever seen one.
If he runs like 4.38, I would not be shocked at all. I think the most natural comparison that's going to be made is Alec Pierce for obvious reasons. Tall white kid that can run. Like, it's just what it's going to happen. But, man, he can run. He's got a longer frame. I think he needs to continue just to add good power to his profile. Like, let's get a little bit more consistent through contact. Let's expand the route tree because it was very simplistic with what they asked his role to be last year. Can you be more of a short to intermediate separator? That's like my major question for Charlie Becker, but there's no question that he has the height, weight, speed element that's going to be very intriguing for NFL teams.
So it made me really happy that I pissed you off before the show because I was higher on a guy that you thought you were really high on. Dude, I watched Reed Harris, who transferred from Boston College to Arizona State, and I was like, oh, this is a no-brainer. I have a first-round grade on him. I don't care if that is ridiculous. I don't even have that many first-round grades so far in the preseason. I have to finish quarterbacks, but about I think 15 is somewhere around. Reed Harris, regardless, huge. 6'5". He's gigantic, long arms. Mm-hmm. He is somebody who uses his length really well to go up, get extension, pluck the ball out of the air. So smooth. The way that this guy accelerates and separates, the ability to stack corners is fantastic. His release is super efficient for a tall receiver, which was unexpected, and he cuts pretty cleanly. Hands you can trust, flexibility to move. Mm-hmm. Only thing that I really identified on as a knock for him is that not as strong as you'd like for a 6'5" guy who's over 215. Like I was hoping that maybe he'd be a little more physical, but man, he was a no-brainer. I was fired up after I watched him.
How fast do you think Reed Harris is? Just a question for you real quick.
He's got to be in the 4.3s, 4.4s,
4.3s? Well,
4.4 at least.
I wrote down 4.44, 4.45, somewhere in that ballpark. I think he can run, though. I think he's another kid that's going to be – there's going to be some misnomers about him because of his size. People are going to assume that he is not a fast dude. And I do think it takes him a couple steps to get to his top speed. Like, I don't think he's an instant accelerator, but I love Reed Harris, man. Like, I was watching him, Joe, at Boston College, because he's one of those guys that I saw from the NFL that they had some high grades on him. And I never watched him at Boston College other than – when they played Notre Dame last year, but I think he had like a touchdown against Notre Dame, if I remember correctly, but he wasn't like prominently targeted in that game, so it wasn't like this like eye-popping performance. But I agree with you. He is a verified from scouts, 6'4", even 220 pounds, big frame, contested catches. I think he's got a little bit of that Drake London feel to him, though, where like he's smooth for a guy that's a little bit longer. You would kind of expect him to maybe be a little bit high cut and clumsy coming out of routes at times, but I think he can run routes. I think he's vertically oriented. I think he'll block too, which I think is really good. So yeah, this is the one guy where, just to pull back the curtain for a second, every so often before a show, sometimes I yell at Joe and curse at him because I'm like, dude, because you knew I was high on Reed Harris, and all of a sudden I come in and look at the graphic, and you have a higher grade on Reed Harris than I do. So this is one of those guys where he was he's a flag plant. Shut up, dude. He's a flag plant guy for me, and you somehow tried to outdo me on Reed Harris. So congratulations.
Mario Craver is not anywhere. He's literally half the size of Reed Harris. So we're going in a different direction here. I've got him at 5. You've got him at 4. Mario Craver's a little tricky because he's 160 pounds soaking wet. He's pretty thin. I kind of wonder what his weight's going to be this upcoming year. I think that he does need to add weight to his build, so there's no issues with getting injured. We see so many of these guys all the time that are 160 pounds playing wide receiver, and they just can't stay healthy. It's a serious problem. But what's not a problem, we don't have a Tez Johnson type of a situation here because of his speed. He is comically fast. One of the fastest athletes that I've ever watched on film. I was like dumbfounded by how quickly he just hits that top gear and he's gone. He gets out of his release and it's like, oh, he's already down the field and nobody knows where he is because he's so much faster than everybody. Pretty dynamic with the ball in his hands. He's pretty shifty as a route runner, and he is also after the catch really smooth. One of the most athletic guys that you're going to watch. Just don't love the play strength and the size.
I mean, it's fair. It's fair. This is an imperfect prospect, but I think that the overcompensating stuff of the speed and the explosiveness and the quickness and the ability after the catch is something that I'm still going to value. I understand that there's only a couple different roles that he will be able to hold. I understand that he's not going to be for everyone. I get all those things. But I dare you to watch the Notre Dame game last year and not come out and be like, Mario Craver is sick, man. Like, he's so explosive, and his after-catch ability is so dynamic. I'll put his speed into context, Joe, or his just overall athleticism. He made KC Concepcion at times look pretty ordinary athletically, and everyone that knows KC's very athletic, like explosive, can run himself. Mario's a different type of athlete, speed-wise, so I understand he's going to be 165 to 170 pounds. I understand that there are limitations to him. I get it. But in the right offense, I think that kid has star potential. Like, I think he has the ability to be a high upside space weapon if he is used properly.
How fast do you think he is?
4.27? I'll put it like this, Joe. He's a better player than Xavier Worthy coming out, and Xavier Worthy was a first-round pick. Like, Mario Craver's better than Xavier Worthy, in my opinion.
I agree with that.
Size. Like, the same size. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that his speed's probably on par with...
Well, Worthy ran like
him.
4.21, right?
Oh, he broke the record.
4.20, right?
Who was...
4.21?
Why am I blanking on the Mississippi State kid that ran really fast this past year?
Oh, Brennan Thompson.
Brennan Thompson. I think that, like, immediately when I looked at his physical profile and knowing that he was as fast as he was, I immediately was like, oh, am I going to just be watching Brennan Thompson? But I do think that Thompson was not as good at transitioning. He was one of these guys that was tiny and he was very fast. But you're running deep balls with him, and maybe he turns into a kick returner for you.
Stops, like
you're
not running like a diverse route tree with Brennan Thompson. I think that there is more diversity you can do with Craver. I agree 100%.
And I think it's to that point what makes Craver so dangerous is that nobody talks a lot about how, like, when you're that fast, how hard it is to stop and to redirect and to come back in any direction. So for Craver to be as shifty as he is, I think is a clear indicator of, like, just how talented he can be.
Have you ever seen Mighty Ducks 2? You ever seen Mighty Ducks 2? You a Mighty Ducks fan?
Stop naming movies. I have seen, but I don't remember it. When I was a child, I watched it.
Mighty Ducks 2 had a hockey player named Luis Mendoza who was from Miami, Florida, who was the fastest player on the ice, Joe. But they spent the entire movie trying to figure out how to make him stop on the ice. Like, he just could not stop. He would go goal to goal, score a goal, but then he would crash into the boards after the fact because he didn't know how to stop.
That's definitely not Mario Craver's problem.
No.
I want to... So you have TJ Moore at 6. He didn't make my top 10 because I thought he was fine. I wasn't, like, super geeked up on him. Bryant Wesco's at 10 for you. I've got him at 6. I was actually kind of surprised that you liked TJ Moore over Bryant Wesco, because when I watched Bryant Wesco, I saw a player who I think could emerge and be a number 1 wide receiver for a team, at least be like a really high impact, solid wide receiver too. I keep leaning on the word smooth, but I feel like that's like the perfect descriptor for Wesco. I think that he's pretty dynamic with the ball in his hands after the catch. I like his ability to adjust and concentration that he shows with his hands. Play strength isn't fantastic and has a limited impact in some contested. You're disagreeing with me? I'm talking about Wesco, not TJ Moore.
Oh, no. I agree with you. I just think it's a little bit more to the higher degree in terms of.
Oh, you think it's very weak? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so Joe, he's verified at 180 pounds at over 6'2". He is a string bean. And you know who I wrote down as a comparison for him? I actually did a scouting report on him in A to Z Sports. Darius Slayton is kind of who I see with Brian Wesco.
Darius Slayton sucks. I hate Darius Slayton.
Well, listen, Wesco is super fast, explosive. I do think that he's actually really good in and out of breaks, but he's rail thin, and I don't think he can play through contact at all, and his ball skills are very hit or miss. So I think that he has a role as a deep threats, a guy that can push the envelope down the field, but I just worry about that body type. Like at his size and his lack of mass, I just struggle with him. Even as an off-ball Z, like I still think that there's going to be times through contact that he's going to struggle a lot. While I think TJ Moore does not have that concern at all. And while TJ Moore is not the athlete of Wesco, no doubt about it, I think he's smooth and explosive through breaks, and I think that TJ Moore has great hands, like does not drop a single thing. So I just think the floor for TJ Moore is more appealing to me. I think that we can see eye to eye that Wesco has the higher ceiling of those two, but I also do think that there's a little bit of a boomer bust quality to Wesco. Like he could either be a starting wide receiver in the NFL on a +1 as like a number 2 option, or I think that he's a guy that's going to struggle to be a consistent threat. Like I do think there's a few different realities of Wesco more than Moore.
So you have Mike Matthews higher than me. You've got him at 7. I've got him at 10. I recognize that I think he definitely is a top 10 receiver. I like the gear that he's able to hit and how quickly he's able to get to it with his speed. Separation on deep routes is pretty consistent, which is always visible in this hypo offense. Catches the ball, he's pretty elusive. He's able to make guys miss. Transitions are pretty clean. My only thing with Matthews, I don't like his hands. I felt like that there were instances where on film, he's dropping the ball, a couple concentration drops, not really impactful for me in contested situations. I just had a little pause with his consistency with catching the ball.
I don't think he's a great hands catcher, but I guess maybe I just didn't have as big of a concern as you did. I'll say this, though. That kid's a thoroughbred. Like, that's what they look like, man. He's a explosive athlete. After the catch, off the line, I love his body type. Like, I think that he's got great weight on his frame overall. I don't know if you remember him as a recruit, Joe. I actually liked him more as a safety recruit than I did as a wide receiver recruit. But
I actually could see him being a really good safety, if I'm being quite honest with you.
Brother, you need to go back and watch his huddle highlight in high school. He was such a good safety. He just wants to play wide receiver. And, like, I get it, right? Like, he's an NFL athlete at either spot. But I really do kind of wonder. He's like one of those guys I always wonder of, like, man, if he would have just played wide receiver. It's the same thing with, like, JoJo Trader that was with Miami last year that transferred to NC State. JoJo was another one who was like a borderline 5-star where I was like, dude, I think he's a better D-back than wide receiver, but he just wants to play wide receiver at the college level. I get it. But I do think that Mike Matthews is, if he takes a step that we saw from freshman to sophomore year, that's equal to sophomore to junior year jump, I think he's going to go very early because he's just a different type of athlete.
Ryan Wingo, you and I have talked about him previously, our excitement for him. Thick build for a guy that's probably going to run in the 4.3s. 6'2", 215-ish is around what he's listed at. It's got good length. His ability just to hit that gear and run away from people is fantastic. He is going to be, I think he's going to be an awesome Z for a team that'll never really truly be that, hey, he's our big time player or he's sought after, like we think we can turn Ryan Wingo into our number 1 wide receiver. But if you already have a good X or a really good slot receiver and he's just out there on the, playing Z and making dudes miss and running past people, that's to me where he ends up flourishing. And that's what he'll get to do this year. There was a bit of a negative microscope on him because his hands suck. Yes. And he was kind of that big, he was the primary target within this offense. He was like their most reliable guy, but half the time you got to throw him screens because he can't catch anything, but he can't catch a cold. He had a drop rate that was 11.5. Wait, no, I think I wrote, 11.5%, which is astronomically high.
Yes. Well, he's one of those guys where I will bet on this athlete all day. I think he's Rashee Rice, but with more juice. Like, that's who he reminds me of in terms of like his after catch ability. When he he gets at the top speed in a blink of an eye, and he's like one of those guys where you could just run screens, you could run mesh crossers, just get him out in space, and in one-on-one situations, he can go. The juice is unreal. But it is hard to fully buy into a kid that has had so much drop issues during the first 2 years of his career. It was a little better as a freshman. Sophomore year, dude, it was just some games where it just felt like he could not catch. Like, I don't know what the issues are. I am a little bit mixed on my opinion of him this offseason, too, because I've been told that the drops have mostly not been an issue during fall camp, like this offseason. It's mostly been better. But then there was a scout that told me that when he was in there, he saw like 3 different drops from Wingo. So, like, is it better Wingo? Is it the same Wingo? Either way, he's an NFL athlete, but I'm just a little cautious with him because drop issues, I think, is something that can derail, obviously, upside that someone brings to the table. So he's a wait-and-see player to me, but the athleticism he brings to the table is astronomical.
Yeah.
Did we both just use astronomical on one player, by the way? You said that his drop rate was astronomical, and I just said his upside is astronomical. That's really weird.
It's the spectrum of
You're a trendsetter, man. You're a trendsetter.
Sure. So speaking of a guy that has, I want to get to this, our last guy that didn't actually make your list, but I think is warranted having a conversation because the NFL had high grades on him in the preseason, and he was considered to be a phenom after he had a pretty awesome freshman season and then a pretty struggling sophomore season with drops. Ryan Coleman-Williams, he added a hyphen to his name, so now he's hopefully that name change helps him. Here's the thing. I really liked him. The drops for me are less about him having bad hands and more so him being in his head. That's what it looked like to me on film, that it felt like he was dropping the ball because he was just overthinking things and he just was not securing easy catches. I don't think it's ridiculous to say that he reminds me of Jamar Chase. He physically is his ceiling. His ceiling, if he fixes his hands, he's more reliable. He reminds me a lot of Jamar Chase. He does everything super well. He's really, really freaking smooth. He makes like just running routes look easy, even though he's doing it so efficiently. But the hand stuff is kind of dragging him down pretty significantly. I could tell that you disagree.
Well, the hand stuff and the fact that he's 175 pounds, I understand he's only 17 years old or whatever the heck he is now, but, you know, it's still, it's a little bit disconcerting. 19. I know, it was a joke. It was a joke because everyone just was, like, freaking out because he was 17 for, like, 6 months or whatever that was. I like the athlete a lot. I think his start and stop is awesome. I think he's explosive. I think he can win after the catch. Athlete of Ryan Coleman-Williams is intoxicating. But Joe, I don't know, man. Since that early start to his freshman year 2 years ago, he just hasn't been productive the last year and a half, and he's just so inconsistent with his ability to play through contact and win the ball. So I understand the allure of Ryan Coleman-Williams. I'm just not betting in until I see him put a few games together this fall. So if he starts putting some games together, I'll revisit him and recalibrate my thoughts on him. But for now, I'm just kind of wait and see on him. So. Also saw that you're a big Deuce Robinson guy. I didn't expect that one. Didn't expect Deuce Robinson love.
Deuce Robinson also not very consistent with the hands, but
yes, and he's a big body wide receiver. He has to be consistent with his hands. He doesn't.
Here's the thing with Deuce Robinson. Final quick thought here on him before we get out of here. Being a former tight end, I think that his success is as a big slot in the NFL. Like I got to get him the ball and let him work in space and let him make guys miss. I love that he has that tight end background, and he's not necessarily gonna play tight end in the NFL. He's almost as if Evan Ingram, we just decided he wasn't a tight end. Coming out of college, we just said, okay, he's just a wide receiver. That's to me what Deuce Robinson. It's not a direct comparison, but like what Deuce Robinson could be, which Evan Ingram, being a big, really fast, dynamic slot weapon, carved out a role for Ingram for a long period of time. And he had a couple of very productive, successful seasons. He also had issues where his hands significantly held him back. I think that Robinson is in a pretty unique group for what he can be discussed as, but it sounds like you have serious issues with him.
I don't have serious issues with him. I just I didn't see for a guy that is over 6'5" and over 200. I think he's over 6'6" and over 220 pounds. he just didn't win in contested catches the way I thought he was going to, and went through contact. Like, I thought his ball skills were like a little bit hit or miss. I like the vertical orientation of his game. Like, I think that he can win down the field. I don't know, man. I think he's a little bit of an oxymoron as a player, because like the player that he should be, I don't know if he is in terms of like his style. So I don't know. He's like one of those guys that's a little conflicting to me. I did see someone put a Michael Thomas comp on him, which I was like,
well, that's kind of like what I'm getting at. It's the big power slot. Well, it's not even really a power slot, but like just the big ass slot receiver.
Slant boy. Yeah.
Hey man, it worked. It worked for Michael Thomas.
It did work. It did work. You're right.
All right, everybody. That's going to be it from us. We've got tight ends next. Stay tuned. Subscribe so you don't miss out. We'll talk to you later.